The first thing I saw was Amina kneeling on the floor, holding those torn brown shoes like somebody wanted to pull her heart out. Her hands were shaking, her eyes were wide, and she was begging us to stop. That picture has refused to leave my mind till today. It was that moment I knew those shoes were not ordinary. But let me go back and tell it well. Our hostel room was always noisy every morning. Joyce would be singing loudly. Zainab would be arguing with somebody on the phone. And me, I was always laughing at something small because that is how I am. But Amina was different. She was quiet like early morning breeze. She would fold her clothes small. She would cook her noodles gently. She would even walk like she did not want to disturb anybody. We always joked that if she talked too loud, maybe the sun would hide. But she had one strange habit. Under her bed, she kept one old pair of men's shoes. Not nice shoes. Not shoes somebody can wear outside. Very ugly, torn, and brown like something that came from a long journey. We used to laugh any time we saw them. Sometimes Joyce would kick them and ask why Amina was hiding village juju under her bed. Sometimes Zainab would say maybe her secret boyfriend forgot them. Me? I would just laugh because it was funny then. Amina never got angry. She would only push the shoes back under the bed with her hand and continue what she was doing. One day, everything changed. The caretaker came to announce that they wanted to fumigate our room. That place had too many cockroaches. So we had to move all our things outside. Everybody was shouting and dragging bags. Clothes were flying everywhere. People were complaining. It was chaotic. Then it happened. When Amina lifted her mattress, the shoes rolled out like they were running away. They fell on the floor in front of everybody outside. The whole corridor started laughing. Joyce said the shoes looked like they had witnessed Nigeria's independence. Someone else said they belonged to a ghost. Another person asked if Amina was doing one secret ritual. We were all laughing until we noticed something. Amina was not smiling. She bent very fast, grabbed the shoes, held them close to her chest, and looked at us like we had slapped her. Her lips were shaking. Her eyes were wet. For the first time since I knew her, her voice rose. She said we should stop touching them. She said it with pain, not anger, like she was holding fire inside her. All of us became quiet immediately. The laughter died in the air. Nobody understood why she looked like that. Nobody understood why she held those shoes like she was holding her whole life. I watched her walk back inside slowly, hugging the shoes as if someone would steal them. The rest of us stood outside, confused, the fun suddenly feeling like a mistake. That was the day my heart first asked me a question. Why did a pair of torn shoes make a calm girl break down like that? I did not know it yet. But those shoes carried a story that would change all of us in that room. And it started that day, with Amina shaking on the floor and the whole hostel staring like they had just seen the beginning of a storm. After the fumigation, when they told us we could enter our room again, the whole place smelled like strong medicine. We opened all the windows and started dragging our bags back inside. Everybody was talking about something else, but my mind was still on Amina and those shoes she held like a newborn baby. When we entered the room, Amina was already inside. She had arranged her mattress. She was sitting on her bed with her hands folded on her lap. The shoes were beside her, the same way somebody would keep something precious. She did not look up when we came in. She did not smile. She just sat there quietly. Joyce whispered that maybe Amina was overreacting. Zainab said maybe we took the joke too far. Me, I could not even talk. Something in the way Amina looked made my heart heavy. It felt like we touched a wound we did not know she had. I started packing my clothes silently. Everyone did. The room was too quiet. Even the air felt thick. Nobody wanted to be the first to say anything. But we could all feel it. Something was sitting in the middle of the room with us. It was not the smell of the fumigation. It was guilt. Later that night, around 9 p.m., the generator had already gone off. Only the small rechargeable lamp was on, making the room look softer. Amina was still sitting quietly. She had not spoken since afternoon. I kept looking at her because her silence felt different. It was not her normal calm silence. It was silence that carried tears inside it. Finally, she touched the shoes gently and placed them on her lap. She took a deep breath. Then she said she wanted to talk. Her voice was low, like she was afraid something inside her would break if she talked too loud. We all turned to her. She started by saying, We should not think she was angry with us. She said she knew we did not mean to hurt her. But she said the shoes were the only thing she had left from someone important. When she said that, her voice cracked small. I felt something move inside my chest. She looked down at the shoes and rubbed the torn leather with her thumb. She said they were old because the man who owned them walked too much. She said he used to repair them by himself because he could not afford new ones. She paused there and swallowed hard, like saying the next part was heavy. The room was silent. Even the fan was not making noise because there was no light. She said the man who owned the shoes was her father. And she said the morning he died, those shoes were beside him when she went to the hospital. The shoes were the last thing he wore before he collapsed on the road. When she said that, my throat tightened. Joyce covered her mouth with her hand. Zainab bent her head. Amina held the shoes tighter. She said she kept them under her bed because anytime she felt like giving up in school or felt like she was failing, she would look at the shoes and remember how hard her father worked just so she could go to school at all. Her eyes were shining with tears, but she refused to cry. She said the shoes remind her where she came from. I wanted to say something, anything, but my mouth felt dry. We had been laughing at something that carried another person's pain, and now the pain was sitting in front of us, wearing old brown shoes. That night, none of us slept early. The room felt different. The jokes felt far away. The shoes were no longer funny. They had become something else, something deeper. That was the night we realized Amina was carrying a story she never planned to tell, and we had opened it without knowing. The next morning, the hostel woke up with its normal noise. Girls were laughing outside. Somebody was frying eggs. Someone was shouting for bucket. Life continued, but inside our room, something had changed. It felt like the air was moving slowly, like we were afraid to disturb whatever was sitting in the middle of us. Amina woke up early as usual. She swept the floor, cleaned her corner, and folded her clothes. But she was quiet in a different way. Not the normal calm one. This one was heavy. She moved like somebody who was trying not to think too much, but the thoughts kept following her. The shoes were still under her bed, but she had put them in one nylon bag now, almost like she wanted to protect them more. All through the morning, the three of us kept watching her with side eyes. Nobody wanted to bring up what she said last night, but nobody was forgetting it either. Every time I looked at her, I kept thinking about her father walking around with those shoes until the day his body gave up. Later in the day, after classes, we all came back tired. The sun had stressed us. Joyce threw herself on her bed. Zainab started removing her wig. I sat on the floor and rested my back on the wall. Amina came in last. She looked tired too, but when she entered the room, her eyes went straight to the nylon under her bed. Something in me pushed me to talk. I told her that if she wanted to say more about her father, we were ready to listen. I did not know why I said it, but it felt like something she needed. Joyce and Zainab looked at me, then looked at Amina and nodded small. Amina stood there for a moment. She looked confused, like she did not expect us to want to hear more. Then she sat on her bed slowly and brought the shoes out again. She placed them on her lap. Her hands were shaking small, but she held them carefully, not like they were made of glass. She started talking again. She said her father used to wake up before the sun every day. He would go out with newspapers tied in a rope. He walked from street to street, calling out the headlines. She said he refused to stop even when his legs were paining him. Money was small, but school fees must be paid. Food must enter the house. Life must move. She told us how sometimes he would come home with dust all over his trousers. She would sit beside him and remove small stones from the soles of the shoes while he ate. She said he always smiled and told her he was proud of her. She said that smile was what pushed her to read hard. Then she said the hardest part. One Harmattan morning, her father left the house as usual, but he did not come back. They said he collapsed while walking. People tried to help him, but it was too late. When Amina went to the hospital, the nurse gave her a nylon bag. Inside the bag were those shoes. As she talked, her voice started shaking. She said she almost threw them away at first because seeing them made her cry every day. But one night, she sat on the floor with the shoes in her hand and remembered how her father always told her to finish school no matter how hard it was. She said she decided to keep the shoes so she would never forget the man who carried her future on his feet. At this point, Zainab was wiping her eyes. Joyce was quiet, her face soft. Me, I could feel something rising in my chest like tears were trying to climb out. Amina looked at us and said she did not want her pain to make the room sad. She just wanted us to understand why she reacted the way she did yesterday. But we were already changed. The story had entered all of us. The shoes were no longer old brown things under the bed. They had become the story of a man who walked until his last breath, and the daughter who carried him inside her heart. That evening, nobody teased Amina. Nobody joked about anything. We just sat together, quiet, but closer than we had ever been. And I knew something clearly. That small nylon bag under her bed was not just holding shoes. It was holding love, struggle, memory, and one woman's way of surviving her own sadness. After that day, Amina told us everything. The room was not the same again. It was like her story quietly entered all of us and refused to leave. Anytime I looked at the shoes, I did not see torn leather again. I saw a man trying to survive for his child. I saw somebody carrying the whole weight of his family on his tired feet. And I saw a daughter who was trying to hold on to her father with the only thing life left for her. Things changed slowly, but they changed. One night, about a week later, Zainab came back to the room crying. She had been pretending in class, laughing with everybody, but when she entered the room, the tears rushed out. She said her mother called and told her that the money for her next school fees might not come in time. She sat on her bed and cried like a small child. Joyce tried to pet her. I sat beside her too. But nothing was working. Amina did not say anything. She just bent down, slowly brought out the nylon bag, and brought the shoes out. She placed them on the floor near Zainab's feet. She did not touch Zainab. She did not talk too much. She simply said that anytime she feels like breaking down, she remembers the man who walked with those shoes until he could not breathe again. Then she told Zainab that whatever was stressing her would not be stronger than her. The room became quiet. Something passed through all of us. It was not magic. It was not anything big. It was just this calm reminder that everybody has something they are carrying, something heavy. And sometimes the thing that helps is not words. It is knowing you are not alone. Zainab wiped her tears and touched the shoes softly. She said she did not want to complain again. She said if Amina's father could keep going with that kind of life, she too would not give up. And that night, for the first time ever, I saw her sleep like somebody who had hope again. But it did not end there. Joyce also had her moment. A few days later, she was sitting on her bed staring at her phone. She was shaking. Her boyfriend had posted a picture with another girl. She acted like she did not care outside. But when we got inside the room, she threw her phone on the bed and started talking fast, with anger and tears mixed together. She said she was tired of trusting people. She said she felt stupid. She said she felt alone. Before I could even think of what to say, Amina had already reached for the nylon bag again. She placed the shoes beside Joyce. Then she sat beside her and said something soft. She said that sometimes life breaks the things we trust so that we can learn to stand on our own feet first. Joyce leaned on her shoulder and cried like all the pain inside her finally found where to escape. Even me, I had my own moment. One night, I got a call that my younger brother had fallen sick at home. I started panicking because I could not travel that night and I did not have enough money to send. I sat on the floor and held my head. I felt useless. Before I looked up, the shoes were already in front of me. Amina did not even talk. She just placed her hand on my back and sat with me until I calmed down. It was then I realized something important. Those shoes were not only helping Amina anymore. They were helping all of us. They had become a reminder that suffering did not mean the end of your story. Pain did not mean you had failed. It only meant you were human. And you needed strength from somewhere, even if that strength came from old shoes under a bed. As the days passed, we stopped acting like four strangers living together. We became something closer. Something like a small family built on shared weakness and new strength. And all of it started with one quiet girl who held on to her father through a pair of shoes the world would have thrown away. We did not know it, but those shoes were slowly teaching us how to carry each other. The real change came on a Saturday morning, the kind of morning that starts quietly but ends up changing something inside you. The sun was still soft, the compound was calm, girls were washing clothes outside, some were cooking noodles, but inside our room, it felt like a day that was waiting to teach us something. Amina was sitting on her bed, rubbing the shoes with a small cloth. She did it sometimes, not to clean them, because nothing could clean something that had suffered that much. She did it like someone touching a memory. Joyce was braiding her hair in front of the mirror. Zainab was pressing her phone. I was on my mattress writing notes. It was the kind of peaceful silence that felt like everybody was breathing the same air. Then the caretaker knocked and told us there was a visitor asking of Amina. She looked surprised. She did not get visitors often. She got up and followed him outside. We did not move at first, but after some minutes, she did not return. Joyce looked at me. I looked at Zainab. Something pushed us to step outside. When we reached the corridor, we saw Amina sitting on a bench with a woman who looked older, thinner, tired in the eyes but warm in the smile. The woman was holding Amina's hand. We stayed far so we would not disturb them, but we could hear small parts. The woman was thanking Amina for something. She was telling her she was proud of her. She was saying her father would be smiling wherever he was. Amina's eyes were shining, but she was trying not to cry. Later, when they came in, we finally understood. The woman was her aunt, her father's younger sister. She had come to see how Amina was doing because she had heard that life was getting hard for her. She brought small foodstuff and some money. Nothing big, just something to remind Amina that she still had people. When the aunt left, the room was quiet again. But it was not heavy this time. It was warm. Amina sat down and looked at us like she was searching for the right words. She said her aunt told her something important. She said her father did not work hard because he wanted her to suffer too. He worked hard so she would have an easier place to stand. She said the shoes were important, but she must not let them hold her down. She must let them push her forward. Then she did something none of us expected. She placed the shoes in the middle of the room and said they did not belong only to her anymore. She said we all carried the story now. She said we shared the pain, the lessons, the strength. She said the shoes should stay where everyone could see them, not hidden under a bed again. We all stared at the shoes. For the first time, they were not under the bed, not inside a nylon bag, not held tightly in someone's arms. They were sitting open in the light. Joyce moved first. She touched the shoes slowly and said they reminded her not to beg for love from anybody who treated her like she did not matter. Zainab touched them next. She said they reminded her that no matter how tough school felt, her family was trying their best, just like Amina's father. I touched them last. I said they reminded me not to panic when life shook me, because strength could come from places you do not expect. Amina listened to all of us. Then she smiled a soft smile that I had never seen on her face before. It was the smile of somebody who finally let others help her carry her story. That night, we placed the shoes on a small stool in the corner of the room, almost like a small shrine, but not for worship, for memory, for strength, for understanding. It became our quiet place. Anytime one of us felt tired or scared or broken, we would sit beside the shoes and breathe. By the end of the semester, we were no longer 4 girls in a hostel room. We were 4 lives tied together by one man's journey. 4 hearts that learned how to hold each other. 4 friends who learned that sometimes the things the world laughs at are the same things carrying the strongest stories. The shoes never walked again, but they carried all of us.